Call the meeting to order, and we will start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Mary Cotterman.
Here.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
Here.
Miss Amy Walker.
Here.
Mr. Tim Wigton.
Here.
Mr. Doug Mosier.
Here.
Okay, at this time, we'll take nominations for the board president.
I nominate Melissa Walker. And I'll nominate Doug Mosier.
Okay, so hold on one second. So Melissa Walker.
I move the nominations be closed.
Okay.
I second. Okay, so we will vote on me first, since I
Well,
was...
first we have to vote on closing.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay, hold on a
That's
second.
okay.
And
We go through
Roll
this
call.
every year.
Yeah,
Miss
you
Walker.
do.
I'm
Sorry.
still making notes.
Tim Wigton.
4.
Melissa Walker.
4.
Miss Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4.
All right. So I guess first one we're going to do is Melissa Walker by Mary Cotterman. So Mary Cotterman,
4.
Miss Amy Walker,
Against.
Mr. Wigton,
Against.
Mr. Mosier.
Against.
Okay, that's 3. Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Okay. So now it is Mr. Mosier.
And I,
Well, Miss Walker is the one who nominated her, right?
correct.
So Miss Walker,
Is this for Mr. Mosier?
it's for Mr. Mosier.
Yes, 4.
Mr. Wigton,
4.
Mrs. Cotterman,
Against.
Mrs. Walker,
Against?
Mr. Mosier.
4.
Okay, so it's 3-2. Mr. Mosier wins that. I think until the oath of office is read, Mrs. Walker, you still have to do the
Yes.
vice president.
So at this time, we'll take nominations for the board vice president.
I'll nominate Amy Walker, Miss Amy Walker.
And I'll nominate Melissa Walker.
Okay, we need a motion to close the nominations.
So moved.
Second.
I'm still writing. So, Wigton. Mosier. Mr. Wigton, this is for closing the nominations. Mr. Wigton,
4.
Mr. Mosier,
4.
Miss Walker,
4.
Mrs. Cotterman,
4.
Mrs. Walker.
4.
Okay, so now, on a motion by Mr. Mosier,
No, by Amy.
or by Amy,
Nope, that's
Nope.
not true.
By Mr.
By Mr.
yeah,
Mosier.
You were right, I'm sorry.
and who wants to, is there somebody that wants to second that, well, no, we got to do it yet. So, Mr. Mosier for Miss Walker,
Miss Amy Walker, 4.
okay? Mr. Wigton for Miss Amy Walker,
4.
Miss Amy Walker for Miss Amy Walker,
4.
Mrs. Cotterman for Miss Amy Walker,
Against.
Mrs. Melissa Walker for Miss Amy Walker.
Against.
Well, it's 3-2, so on motion by Mr. Mosier, we need a second for vice president? And no, I didn't think we needed a
We
second.
don't, because we've elected with 3 votes.
Right. Okay, that being said, I'm sorry to take over, because I know you have to assume the duties, but before we do, I should probably read the oath of office and have you guys do that.
Yes.
Even though it's not in here. So, would you mind terribly?
Let's raise our hand.
Would you mind raising your right hand, please? Do you, Mr. Doug Mosier, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution, the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as President of the Board of Education of the Madison Local School District, Richland County, Ohio, and to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect or hereafter to be enacted and in accordance with the policies of this board during your continuance in said office?
I do.
Miss Amy Walker. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you, Miss Amy Walker, solemnly swear or affirm you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as Vice President of the Board of Education of the Madison Local School District, Richland County, Ohio, and to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect or hereafter to be enacted and in accordance with the policies of this board during your continuance in said office?
I will.
This time it's you.
All right, go to item D5, Superintendent appoints the following Administration Committee liaison for 2025.
So what I'd like to do is appoint the same people for the committees as we had this past year, which would be Amy Walker for Legislative, Doug Mosier, Melissa Walker for Athletic Board of Control, Melissa Walker for Student Achievement, and Mary Cotterman and Amy Walker for Board Policy. However, if anybody would like to excuse themselves from one of those committees or be interested in adding, be interested in another committee, I'd be happy to hear that at this time.
I would be interested in the Athletic Board of Control. I think it would be nice if we switched around and learned different committees and what goes on in them, and like broaden ourselves as board members instead of always doing the same. So I'm willing to give up board policy,
Oh, are you now?
and I'll stay on there with you too if you want me to, but
You do 3.
And I
if
would,
anyone else is interested in board policy, it is interesting. You learn a lot, so.
Yeah. Who's on athletic council? It's Mosier and Wigton?
no,
Mosier and Melissa Walker.
Mosier. Okay.
I would be interested at some point in doing board policy, but I've only been on the Athletic Board of Control for a year, and I really would like to stay with that. It's only 3 meetings a year, and I would like to at least do it for 1 additional year. So I'm not in a huge rush to be on board policy, but at some point in the future, I would like to be.
Isn't the athletic board supposed to be the president and one other?
I was unable to find a policy to confirm that. I've looked into it after last year's meeting and again earlier this week.
Really?
Then I'd like to stay on the athletic board.
Well, yeah, you need to if you're board president, but I thought there was a policy on that or and I don't know. I was told that, I'm almost certain by Lee Cable.
Yeah, I've searched the policies and I've been unable to locate one.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Okay, with that, since everybody would like to, or at least the Athletic Board of Control would like to stay as is, but just leave them as is for now. But I'll take the others under advisement for the future.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? You need a motion to accept that?
Nope, not that, but you
So-
need a motion for the next one, though.
Item 6, set regular meeting date and time. Rob, would you like to still do it on the third Wednesday of the month, or?
Works good for me.
Everybody else okay with that?
So moved?
So who first? You did?
I made the motion. Keep it the same.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Same time, right? 6:30 or 6?
6.
Ready for the roll call? Mr. Wigton,
4.
Miss Amy Walker,
4.
Mrs. Cotterman,
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker,
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. All right, item 7, approve yearly procedures. Everybody had an opportunity to review those?
Oh, yeah.
You also have an item on the addendum with that.
So approve item 7, including the addendum. Is there entertain a motion to approve item 7 as written and the addendum?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Is there anything about the conflict of interest we need to discuss?
Not really. I mean,
There's not much you can do about it.
well,
It is standard. I mean, I hope everybody is reviewing it and abiding by it. And I appreciate that you printed copies for us. Thank you.
not a problem. So, Mr. Wigton,
4.
Miss Amy Walker,
4.
Mrs. Cotterman,
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker,
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. All right, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment of this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry.
Any other discussion?
Mrs. Melissa Walker,
4.
Mr. Wigton,
4.
Miss Amy Walker,
4.
Mrs. Cotterman,
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. Motion is adjourned. Thank you very